Let's talk to Steven Barrett, our favourite barrister, because I'm sure he'll agree with me. Steven, sorry about the slightly extended rant there, but I'm sick to death of these people. I mean, did they really think that what Donald Trump said was not meant for the purposes of a negotiation? How can they not understand that?
I don't think they understand terribly much, to be honest.
No.
And I think it's been going on, for me, with the scales fell from my eyes with the referendum on Brexit.
Yes.
Upon which I've never taken a position, because I've always said that there were arguments either way,
yeah.
which I think that there were, and I think most intelligent people could see that there were arguments either way.
Right.
But with the result, I don't know what to call them, Mike. We're going to need a term for these people, but because they're not the elite and they're not intelligent, but they seem to be self-proclaiming that. And
they want everyone to think they're the elite, don't they?
They do, and they suffer from a disease that I think is particularly bad in humans, Mike, which is wanting to be thought clever. I don't think any of us should ever want other people to think that we're clever. I don't think that's a very healthy position for you to be in.
No.
The minute that you go down that route, and that's your sort of main motivation in the day, I think you've probably got a bit lost. What we should probably try and do is work out rational positions and try and make sure that the positions that we take and the policy choices that we make and how we live our lives and how we want to approach the world is rational and grounded in logic and reason. That's fine. But we shouldn't want anybody or need anybody to think of us as intelligent. It really shouldn't
intelligent people, in my experience, intelligent people don't go around telling everyone how intelligent they are. Whereas, the sort of what I call the Times radio clique put out adverts in which they describe Hugo Rifkind as, biting, incisive and intelligent and witty. And you go, if you've got to put that on an advert, he's not any of those things, actually, is he?
No. If you have to pay to say something, then it's probably false. But also, I mean, I get your frustration at this. There have been just acceptable ideas, I call it regime think. That if you recite these mantras, you will be accepted in British life and you will be treated as though you are something very terribly impressive. And all you have to do is constantly recite these mantras. And one of them, which is particularly frustrating if you do actually like paying attention to stuff, is that Donald Trump is somehow wrong.
Yeah.
And somehow just not acceptable.
Always.
But
also always wrong in every single aspect. They cannot bring themselves to congratulate him for doing anything right. They cannot bring themselves to praise him in any way. All they can do is question him. And even when he does do something which is universally accepted, you would have thought to be down to his cleverness and his acuity or whatever, they can't accept it. They can't give him the credit for it.
No, and they have to sort of pretend that he's evil. So you end up with ridiculous scenes where he's sort of, playing in the White House garden with 5-year-olds, and they have to pretend that he's somehow a nasty man. It's like this really just doesn't stack up. Okay, just on the basis analysis of evidence, your position doesn't work. He's obviously quite a sweet man. His youngest boy, Barron Trump, did something absolutely remarkable and brilliant when he was Zooming or Skyping or whatever, one of his a friend, and she was being assaulted by her partner, and he reported it immediately to the police and then gave evidence, and the man got convicted. That's just moral decency. That's just goodness. And if somebody raises a boy to do that, he's a young man. I shouldn't be rude to him, but if somebody raises a young man to do that, then they're obviously a good father. So again, I don't see how the evidence supports your conclusion. But they seem to live in evidence-free worlds. They don't seem to require evidence. All they require is to recite the mantra. And what's frustrating, I suspect what's behind your frustration, Mike, is that it's very, very dull. It's just dull. The minute that they become a regime thinker, we know what they think about everything. We know that they've accepted the party line on everything.
Yes.
We almost don't need them to talk anymore. It's like you can now stop talking because we know all of your opinions. You're not going to say anything interesting. You're not going to say anything innovative or new. All you're going to do is hold the party line. And this becomes a real replacement for thinking. It's deeply anti-intellectual. So the fact that they want to be thought of as clever is just very, very frustrating, because that's the complete opposite of what intellectual people do. Intellectual people challenge themselves, question themselves, hold differing opinions, change their mind. Good for goodness forbid.
Yeah.
But the idea that these people are interesting in any way is complete madness, which is why, I'm afraid, unlike you, I don't listen to Times Radio, and I don't listen to Radio 4 anymore. I just, there's nothing interesting it's going to say. It's
well,
just
we
going
were
to
saying this morning that, we're going to be banging this drum today and also for quite a long time. This is why the success of what's called independent media, whether it's your Substack, whether it's my show, whether it's what other people access now, because they need to see the truth from a position where it's actually unvarnished. I will not always do things that people like. Yesterday we had Steve Baker on, who's a former member of the Boris Johnson government. He was a Northern Ireland minister, and he spent about 15 minutes waxing lyrical about how hard it was to be an MP. And of course, people were going, this guy's an absolute maniac. How dare he? But they listened to him. And, it wasn't something they wanted to hear, but it was educational because, yes, he wasn't making a case that was in any way, in my view, defensible. But, it's interesting to hear the point of view of people who come at things from a different place. And so, therefore, that's what we do. Whereas in no place in the mainstream media now do you get that. All you get is this kind of, we've got a clip which we'll play later probably on in the show. Zia Yusuf was on Good Morning Britain. I don't know why they bothered going on there. And Charlotte, what's her face, who's a very nice-looking young woman but has got the brains of a pea, literally, said to him, well, your new policy in which you would refuse visas to people who are coming to Britain from countries who are seeking reparations for slavery would have meant that your parents couldn't have come here from Sri Lanka. And you kind of go, well, that's a bit of a weird assumption to make because, one, they came here many, many decades ago when this wasn't an argument. And what are you saying? Are you saying that your logical conclusion now is that his parents would have to be sent home? No, that's not what Reform was saying. And so they make these ludicrous points to sort of score on the scoreboard, oh, we got him on that. But it's, as you say, anti-intellectual.
Yeah, it's completely. It's sort of because you see a lot of this on Twitter, Mike, and you put out a point that people don't like, and then they'll basically reply with something like, "So you're saying that we should murder babies?"
Yes.
It's probably the apex of this is that Kathy what's-her-face interview with Jordan Peterson.
Yes, Kathy Newman.
Where she just completely misinterpreted everything he said.
Right.
And I don't know whether these people are doing it deliberately. I don't know whether they're just incredibly stupid. But it doesn't seem to matter either way. Either way, they're not very useful. They're not honest actors. We can have people, you and I probably do agree on quite a lot of things. But we've also got people that we're friendly with who we disagree with. Yeah. And we can have interesting conversations and arguments with them. I would have liked to have had the argument with Steve Baker that actually being an MP is quite an honour and probably quite a cushy job compared to something like my granddad's job, which was back in the day as a doctor.
Bizarrely, he also made that argument at the same time. It was kind of like, yes, it's a privilege, but also it's quite hard,
Right. Okay. Well, but I do that with great civility. I wouldn't be nasty to him. I'm sure he's a decent fellow. We can argue and disagree in an interesting way. But these people in our society who just completely misinterpret what you have said, they're a real problem because you can't argue with them. You can't discuss anything with them. They're just a complete waste of time. I spend most of my life on Twitter blocking them, but they are an endless, and they are a pandemic, Mike.
There is this endless stream of them, and you're absolutely right, because whenever I read a sentence that begins with, so what you're saying is, you just immediately want to disregard it, because you know that it's going to be complete and utter nonsense.